welcome you all, give you a little bit of an idea about me. My name's Claire Broad. I'm a medium and now a best-selling author. That feels good to say that. Thank you. I've written 2 books and this is my 2nd book. So I'm here today to talk a little bit about what the dead are dying to teach us. But more than that, I'm not here just to sell, I'm not selling. I'm here to give you an uplifting message. Because like I said, I believe that everybody that finds their way here needs the message more than you need to learn about me. I've been 23 years now working as a professional medium. I'm accredited with the Institute of Spiritualist Mediums. I have a very busy private practice. I have done theatre demonstrations. I have written books. I've done it all now. I really have. So I feel that I'm qualified to share this message with you. But I'm actually going to start by going right back to the beginning, if I may, because I think that's the most important place to start. Like the sound of music. Okay, so when I was 4 years old, just to give you a little story, I was standing in Richmond Cemetery. I was with my mum, Anne, who's kindly here helping me today, and I was with my grandmother. And I was 4, so I was quite bored. And we were there to look after and tidy up the plot of my deceased granddad, who died about a year before. And I'm busy playing because I've got no emotional maturity at all to even, to be honest, care that my grandfather had passed. I wouldn't, would I? I don't hardly remember him. I have one living memory of him. And as I'm playing there in Richmond Cemetery, I feel my granddad come around me. And I just feel the presence of him flood my being, and I hear his voice in my mind saying, "Claire, tell Nanny, Granddad says I love you, Ive." And I'm 4, so I'm frustrated. I'm playing. I don't want to stop my play and deliver such a silly message. Because I've got no understanding that could be helpful. So I resist. And then the feeling and the emotion comes even heavier and stronger. And I'm surrounded by his love. And I just recognise him instantly. And that's what stays with me. That as a 4-year-old, I didn't even question it. I just knew he was there. I didn't even have a concept about death and dying at that age. So that's why I like to bring you right back to the beginning. So in the end, I stand up and I deliver my message. Nanny, Granddad says I love you, Ive. Shout it across. And by this point, my nan and my mum are standing by a gateway at Richmond Cemetery, ready to head out. And the look on their faces is one of gobsmacked, to be honest. Because what 4-year-old says that? But the amazing thing about that message and what resonated with us, and particularly with my grandmother, was that Ive was the name that my grandfather called her. My nan didn't like the name Ivy. It reminded her of poison ivy. So she always went by the name of Connie. And my parents called her Mum and I called her Nanny. So Ive wasn't a name I heard. If I did hear it, I'm not aware of I heard it because everyone was calling her Connie and Mum, and so my nan just knew that was her particular name that she was called from my granddad, and that message stayed with her for the rest of her life. She only died a few years ago now. She was 92, and the comfort that message brought her stayed her whole life. So I learnt a valuable lesson. As I grew older, I remember the day because it was so kind of remarkable and unusual, I started to understand that there is something about reality we haven't quite yet understood, and that life in some way, shape or form continues on. Now for me, as I've got older and more sceptical and more ensconced in culture and scientific thinking and a materialist viewpoint, which we've all grown up in, I've questioned it many times and had to really seriously consider, was there some other explanation in this? And if it had stopped there, maybe I would have done. But there's much more to this story, which I want to share with you very briefly on a bit of a whistle-stop tour now to give you the message that I know the spirit world want you to know. If they can come through a 4-year-old like that and reach out through time and space to let a loved one know that they are okay and that they love them still, then love's a pretty powerful emotion, more than we realise. And I've begun to understand that we don't understand consciousness at all. We're not able to scientifically string a sentence together as to what consciousness is, and yet we're all conscious. So when I speak to you today, I'm speaking to you about that ethereal, almost intangible aspect of ourselves that we know is there because we're aware, but we don't yet understand that. And it's my belief that that can continue in some way, shape or form. I don't pretend to have all the answers. When I speak to you from personal experience, and I'm sharing my truth. And I don't want you to believe me. I want you to question, go away, explore. Think about your own personal experiences, because it might just be that you're here in this room because you've had your own. And I'm very much about trying to connect with people so that they can share these after-death communications, as they're called, because I know I'm not alone. And we are frightened to speak up, and we are frightened to say our truth for fear of ridicule, because somewhere in the back of our minds there we've been taught it can't be real or it's too good to be true. Well, just because we don't understand something doesn't mean that there's not truth in it, does it? So, fast forward a little bit. I am in my teens, and all sorts of, if you like the word phenomena or paranormal activity, don't like the word because I do think it's normal, I think it's just misunderstood, begins to happen. And it makes me question, what's going on? I need to now understand this more. And I'm led on a journey where I meet a medium who then talks about all the experiences I've had, even though she's never met me. And she tells me about spirit teachers that are around me. And she tells me the name of the teacher that has been speaking, trying to get my attention through my teens, that I know for myself is true because I've been having all these experiences along the lines of premonitions, out-of-body experiences, past life memories and apparitions in my room, all sorts of things, that we don't own for fear of being thought of as a bit crazy. I was having them, and I know I'm not alone. So when the medium, who doesn't know me from Adam, tells me about all these experiences, names my granddad, tells me, I know that you've seen your granddad in spirit. He's telling me you've seen him, and they're asking if you will train me. I start to take notice. But I don't do anything about it. I'm still a teenager. So I go my way, I'm night clubbing, I'm doing what all young people do. But I've got a keen interest now. So I'll go and see a medium who's doing a public demonstration in the theatre for a night of entertainment, and I buy a book. And I go up, and afterwards I ask, can you sign my book? And the medium says, do you know you have this spirit guide teacher with you, whose name is, and describes everything that my teacher medium, the initial medium, tells me. So now I've had it validated by 2 different people, and I've had my own experience. They've really got my attention by now. So I start to realise that I need to go and learn, what's mediumship? What is spirit communication? Is there anything in all of this? But where I maybe am a little bit different is I've got an analytical mind, and I feel that I need to understand it from a more logical perspective. And I think more and more of us are getting like that. So I not only throw myself into understanding it and sitting in what's known as circle and trying to develop that connection for myself with the guidance of my teacher, but I also look into all the science and I start to clue myself up. Now, there's much more to this story, I really am whizzing through, but where I want to lead you to now is that during that journey of exploration of mediumship and trying to understand what is spontaneous after-death communication and how do we all have that? What is mediumship? Is the spirit world and afterlife real? If it is, have we understood it right? Okay, this is all me. This is my mind working. Not coming from any religious background. I'm coming from a purely investigative perspective. I start getting messages from the spirit world because I'm coming into contact with other mediums, other channelers, other healers. And the message is playing out exactly the same over and over. You have come to write for the spirit world. They have got your attention because you have a message to bring for them. Probably because I need things in a simplistic way, I don't know, but they tell me that I can articulate things in a way that people can understand, and they want to use that ability within myself. So there are some mediums who are really hot on names, addresses and telephone numbers and the things that some people need. And there are other mediums like me who are of high quality, I've qualified, but I'm much more about the philosophy, the message, and inspiring you to understand that you can have this relationship for yourself. The only difference between me and you, perhaps you might already be on the road of discovery, is that I had experiences from a young age that led me to want to understand it. I do not think I'm special. I believe we all are spirit, okay, in our core, that psyche, consciousness, essence, whatever you want to call it. So that's what I'm passionate about, teaching and sharing this message with you. So what happens is I don't try and do any writing though, okay, because I failed GCSE twice in English, and for 20 years I'm thinking, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not going out there and standing up for someone to shoot me down and call me fraudulent and say that I'm deluded or misguided or capitalising on it. No, I'm not mad. So I don't do anything about it. Out of the blue, well, hang on, I'll go and see a healer. I have some healing. And she tells me the same message again that I've had over and over and over and over for 20 years and says, the time's now. You need to go online at first. You need to talk about the science. They're telling me you're going to write. Prepare yourself to put your head above the parapet. So I went home thinking, here it is again, there's that message. And then out of the blue, a lady called Teresa Chung, who you may have heard of, she's a prolific afterlife author herself, contacts me and says, I can feel heaven drawing me to you. I do not know who you are. I'm very sorry. You don't have a public profile, but you have been recommended for the standard of your mediumship, and I just feel very drawn to you. And thus began a collaboration, because I just knew there it was, brought to me in my living room, a book deal, okay? Now, I thought it would stop there with the book that I wrote with Teresa, but no, more messages are coming through, and that's the springboard. The book we want you to write is coming February 2018, that's specific. I even had covers of the books, colours of the books given to me in all of this as well, in the messages that mediums were giving, okay? And what I want to say about evidence of survival and all of this is it doesn't come through one medium. It comes through exploration over time as evidence begins to build. You often hear mediums talk about evidence of survival. They don't mean scientific evidence, because we can't scientifically prove an afterlife. I know that now. In the book, I share all the scientific research I've looked into and the scientists that I've spoken to and who have kindly worked with me and shared the amazing research that's going on. And where we've got to with it is that scientists can prove that not all mediums are fraudulent, but they can't prove an afterlife. Okay? So when I talk about that evidence, I'm talking about your personal experiences that build up. And I had mine. Because when those books came about, and I'd done nothing about it, but I was contacted and it came to me, I realised they mean business, wherever they are. Okay? So this beautiful book that I'm very proud of actually, comes through me. I don't really know what I'm going to write, but what came out by the end of it was 7 clear lessons. And so that's what, if you will just honour me, I will share the 7 clear lessons that I have learned over the 23 years that I've investigated mediumship and spirit communication. in the hope that it gives you some comfort, some hope, some insight maybe, something to think about, or maybe something to doubt, because that's good too. Part of a spiritual pathway is doubting. We do not learn until we doubt, question, and step out of our conditioning. So I welcome that, okay? So the first lesson I want to share with you today is that we are spirit. Now, to me, that means psyche, consciousness, awareness. That word I use interchange. And I've just said at the beginning, we don't know what consciousness is. We don't actually know. We know where, we know the brain gives rise to awareness and consciousness, but we can't explain what consciousness is, okay, scientifically. So when I say we are spirit, it's because I have learnt from a child, from the message from my grandfather, that there is more, that we do not understand the nature of our being, and we don't understand the nature of reality. We really don't. So anybody who says to you that they know for sure that life doesn't go on and that consciousness can't exist beyond the physical body isn't telling the truth. They need to be saying, we don't know, okay? And if you like, I feel if anybody's qualified, and I don't have any scientific qualifications, it's me or you or the person who has seen an apparition, heard a voice, received a sign, had an experience. We are very guilty of dismissing our personal experiences because we believe someone else knows more. And the truth is, when it comes to this field of things, no. It has to come down to you having some kind of spiritual or mystical experience that opens and expands your mind. And I have learnt that we are spiritual beings first and foremost in a physical form at the moment, but that at some point that physical form will be discarded and we will change form. Transmute or what's the word I'm trying to find? I'm searching for it. Transform into a different state of being anyway. So I think of it a bit like ice, water, steam, okay? And that at the moment we are like in ice form, but that we will become lighter, light beings. They seem to be light. Spirit beings, that much I've gleaned, seem to be made of light, okay? And exist on a different level, different frequency. And then if we can get our minds to blend with that frequency or our brains to shift, we can perceive them. And the reason I believe that children have lots of experiences is because their brains aren't cluttered and full of overthinking and distracted from going within themselves and just being at one with everything, okay? As we get older, the logical brain kicks in. Our brain actually begins to behave differently. So what's interesting about children is that they are, when they're, growing up, in the theta brainwave state all the time. Adults are in that brainwave state when they're asleep or meditating. So children are in that altered state of awareness all the time, which is why they can ride a broom and it be a horse, okay? And we dismiss imagination, we dismiss all that as sort of fairy tale, but actually it's a true form of awareness, and a actual form of reality around us, okay? Now the real interesting thing is scientists have done a lot of research and found that mediums are in theta state when they work. So in some way, shape or form, I'm truly believing that the brain, if we can get into an altered state, meditate, become expanded, we tap into a wider reality, the reality of spirit. The second lesson is death is an illusion. It follows on very nicely from that, okay? I'm not saying that your loved ones haven't died. I would never belittle that. We lose the physical form of our loved ones. I have lost my own. We miss them. That hurts. We have to grieve and we have to accept that life has changed and that they are not present around us in the same way. We can't escape that. But what we can do is understand that if our reality isn't how it seems to us, that we are, if you like, only able to perceive a tiny amount through the limits of our body of reality, then perhaps if reality isn't as it seems, death isn't either. okay? Now we know from scientists that at the quantum level, everything is just potential, atoms and molecules whizzing around, and there's some amazing science going on about how consciousness affects that and forms reality, okay? So perhaps there is another level of reality that isn't material, because they tell us that the chair you're sitting on isn't actually real, that the whole material world we're in is smoke and mirrors, and therefore if that's true, perhaps we're already at some level almost ghost-like. So I'm just asking you to question that death may not be as final as it seems. Is that possible? Okay? The third lesson I want to cover with you is we're never alone. Now this is obviously what I learned from 4 years old, but as my spirit teachers showed themselves to me, I began to understand we're never really on our own, are we? I mean, that can be quite spooky as a teenager when you're seeing someone at the end of your bedroom. But as I grew older and became more mature and was able to accept that contact, I began to realise I'm not special. Just like there are schools, hospitals, establishments here, charities, with people who want to help and enable others to have a good experience in life, so there is in the spirit world. Why would you change? You don't change. We don't just suddenly become like angelic, enlightened beings, okay? Actually, the beauty of life is that you don't have to be perfect. In some way, it continues on, and being imperfect is perfect, because we can keep learning, keep growing, keep experiencing. I've begun to realise, for me, the purpose of life is to keep finding within ourselves greater and greater expressions of ourselves, so we can add into the big soup of the universe those experiences, and consciousness can evolve. That's what I believe. Now, the next lesson is you can rise above fear, because as I said to you, I was really quite frightened as a teenager. But the more I explored this and the more I got hands-on with it, the more and more I've become so at peace. The spirit world is not a spooky reality. We need to get rid of the supernatural Hollywood movies of scary contact. My experience has been nothing but loving. It's been one of, I love you and I'm here to connect with you because that love brings me to you. It sounds really trite, I'm aware, but that's how it works. Because that's what brings you to people that you love. A compassion, a need to reach out and let you know. And actually, in spiritual form, sometimes it's more than that. Sometimes we want to make right for the things that we've done. Try and express to people who are suffering here that we can see their need and want to try and give them some peace, okay? So you do not have to be frightened of this. Many people say that they're frightened of opening a doorway between themselves and the spirit dimensions. My whole book here is about giving you tips and tools to show you that we're talking about just entering an altered state of awareness. Who worries about meditation? Who worries about if you get a visualization and something drops in where you get inspiration? This is what mediumship is at the end of the day. Mediums are not oracles. They're just trying to expand their awareness and tell you what they're perceiving and see if that makes any sense. Well, you can do that, okay? You can have a relationship, send your thoughts out to your spiritual guides, teachers or loved ones and see if you get some inspiration back. What's scary about that? I really honestly want to get this out, that we can rise above fear. I'm not saying that there is always fear with something that we don't understand, but that's our fear. I don't think it's reality. Now, I do believe as above, so below. I do believe that we have lower emotions, don't we here? We have people that don't think too kindly. We have not so many compassionate people, and perhaps in spirit they still exist. But when you learn that you are moving into a state of love and your intention is everything, then you realise that that frequency, that intention sets the boundaries from which you're going to do your communication, and nothing else will be accepted. Just like here, like attracts like. You don't accept any kind of behaviour from people that aren't very good to you. You may sometimes bump up against something, you may learn from it and then go your merry way, but you survived, you know. And in spirit, I've got to say, I'm more frightened of living people because they can do physical harm than spirit people that really don't seem to be able to do an awful lot in that regard. Okay, now, the next lesson I share in the book is love. never dies. I've touched on this, so I don't need to talk about it too much, but I really, really do believe that. As over 23 years of exploring this, having clients come to me who are willing to experiment and see if I can perceive anything, the information that's come through sometimes has been so mind-blowing that I know there is something more to love than we understand, okay? I will be the first to put my hands up, and say to you, mediumship doesn't always work. Sometimes it's infuriatingly limited, sketchy, general, because if you imagine deciphering a dream, for instance, you're working in that way, allowing inspiration in, and it's coming through the limitations of your own mind. And mental mediumship, as it's called, unfortunate term, means that communication, that insight is coming into your mind and you're giving it, okay? And you're just trying to see if it resonates and makes sense. But there are times when it is so poignant and so unbelievably accurate that you can't throw baby out with the bathwater and just say all mediumship is fraudulent. You just can't anymore. And there is too much research to back that up. And I give examples from clients who have been so very precious and given their true life stories because their lives changed. And this is the crux of it. I can't help everybody. I try and help as many as I can. I know some readings won't always work, but when they do work, the transformative power and the healing that comes is the reason that I do this. I have had so many messages from people telling me that their lives have been saved from the hope and comfort given. To me, that means it's worthwhile, okay? Love never dies. Okay, if you ask, it will be given, is the next lesson. I think we don't ask. Well, or maybe we expect, maybe. I don't know. If you've got spiritual understanding, maybe you are asking a higher power all the time for help. Can I have this? Can I have this? Can I have this? Can I have this? But maybe if you get yourself into a better or more clearer way of thinking and consider that if I have help around me, maybe I need to invite that help. Maybe I need to say, it's okay if you come and help me, because I don't believe that people want to railroad our free will. And I also know that the spirit world will not do anything that is going to get in the way of you learning a life lesson. They will support you, they will be present, but they won't do the work for you. Because would you do the work for your 2-year-old who you know, unless they do it themselves, even if they're struggling to tie their shoelaces, they'll never be able to do it. They won't be able to grow into their full potential. So I'm not saying that all of your dreams will be met and all of your wants will be given. I'm saying you do need to set the intention and just say, I allow help. I allow help, okay? Now the last lesson in the book, and one I think is probably the most important, is that nobody dies alone. I have sat with thousands of people now doing sittings with them, and a common theme comes around, that nobody ever crosses or transforms, transitions without having somebody there to try and guide and help them, okay? And there is solid science that backs this up. So I quote Dr. Penny Sartori in the book, who's worked and done a lot of work in this country, in the UK, with dying patients. And deathbed visions are one of the other ways that we can know this, because unbelievably, it's never living people the dying talk about. They talk about seeing their deceased relatives coming to get them. And sometimes that conversation is so unlikely and incredible that it stops to make you think. For instance, if there's a traffic accident and these loved ones have all been together in the car and they get separated in A&E, and somebody who's in the operating room or in intensive care who's dying then says, I know so-and-so is already in spirit and I'm going to join them. But they had no way of knowing that person had died. Okay, so there are ways of having some faith and truth in this, but from a mediumistic perspective, you know, it's what comes through in the sittings. I wasn't on my own. The amount of times I say to people, for instance, I might have someone's loved ones giving me the understanding they could see their loved one in the corner of the room, and the relative will be saying to me, who's living still here with us, saying, yes, they were calling that person and they were looking in the corner of the room, okay? So I began to understand, yeah, they were being met. There are people with them. They are not on their own. And as they crossed, what I began to see is they would show me all the different experiences, and I would learn that death is so unique, like birth. Some may be in a garden, some may be by the sea, some may have this amazing experience through space. You know, it sounds incredible, I know it does, but I can only tell you what I'm being shown. But they were all a common thing there, that they were never doing that alone. So I want to get that point across, because I know that many of us have had to nurse dying loved ones, myself included, and they pass when we're not in the room. Because I feel they relax and are able to let go, because they're holding on. You know, love is so strong, they're holding on for their loved ones. And then you walk away, and the minute you turn your back to get a cup of tea or something, you hear that you've missed it. It happens all the time. And people carry terrible guilt if they haven't been able to get there when their loved ones have passed, especially this day and age, because we're so international, aren't we? We're living all over the place. I want you to know that they know, first of all, that you are thinking of them, because those thoughts are going to them, and that they weren't on their own even if you couldn't get there. I believe, especially listening to near-death experiences and from the love that I feel during readings, is that death is the next great adventure, and that they're having a most amazing experience, which can actually be very infuriating when you are suffering with grief and you are really missing someone who was your soulmate or loved one. But I want to express to you, if you could know the love and the experience they were having, and if you could really understand how close they are, you wouldn't grieve in the same way. You would grieve, of course, because grief is an expression of love. The pain doesn't go away, we learn to live with it, don't we? But you would also have an element of peace deep in that you know you'll see them again, you know they're okay, and that you know you will be in that love forever, because death ends a life, it doesn't end a relationship. And you know that for yourself, because you're still feeling and speaking to your loved ones and sending your thoughts out to them in everyday life when you've lost someone that's really close to you. So these key 7 lessons are what I believe the spirit world have asked me to give to you, along with the science, along with the tips and the tools for you to have your own relationship with your loved ones. And some people feel that I'm encouraging you then not to actually deal with the death of your loved one and get stuck in it. But actually what my experience is it's the opposite. That we begin to be able to let our loved ones move on and go and grow, and we then also don't get stuck in our own lives for fear of letting go of their memory or dishonouring them by living well. Actually what happens is we are free to live because we know they're with us, they see it all. Okay, and that we'll be able to catch up with them and tell them all of what we've done, if nothing more. Okay, so this is not the end of the chapter. This life experience is one life experience and of a greater whole. I really believe that, and that's the message I've come to share. And if, you know, like I said, I don't expect you to believe me, I just want you to perhaps consider that maybe there is something in this. You know, feel my integrity, if you like, feel my heart speaking to you. I've got no, okay, I've written a book, but I've got no incentive to stand here and tell you this and put my life on so publicly for ridicule if I didn't really, really believe it, okay? So thank you so much for listening to me, and I'm going to open up the floor here now because for, you know, time reasons, just to see if anyone's got any questions, anything you want to ask me. And otherwise, I want to thank you so much. I'm just going to get the microphone, okay? Is there anything anyone wants to ask in as much as what you've just heard me talking about? Oh, God, we've got some hands up. I'll come to the back, then I'll come up to you. Let me run down. I'll give you that. Right, because the room's so big.
Yeah, so I find mediums really fascinating, and I've never really met one before. So
Thank you.
I just want to ask you how did you find that you could, and how does this come to you, and how do you interpret messages when you get them? And are you getting any now?
I'm not getting any now, no. If I just take the microphone off you just while we get some feedback. Oh, thank you, Shalini. So I describe it like a game of charades, not because it's a game, but because I feel I need to talk in simplistic terms. So if you imagine walking into a room where two people have had an argument and you hit that atmosphere, yeah, and you feel it in the solar plexus and you know that atmosphere is there and it's informing you, oh, don't quite feel right, something's not happy in this space, okay? You've had an experience just like mediumship. You've sensed the atmosphere, the environment around you, but if you said to somebody, right, there it is, can we now measure and prove that? They wouldn't be able to. Mediumship is that. So what I do is I'm clairsentient, so I feel. Clairsentience means clear sensing. I feel the connection. Just like I said at the beginning, when my grandfather came close to me when I was 4, I just felt him. I became aware he was there. And I can actually feel different. I can feel male, female, I can feel short, I can feel tall, I can feel, I actually begin to feel different. May even feel like I've had heart conditions or out of breath, and I just describe what I'm going through. Interspersed with that, there is sometimes clairvoyance, clear seeing, although it's not that clear because it's not like you use your eyes for it, okay? It's the internal third eye. So I say to people, visualise your front door, you can see the letterbox, the keyhole and everything. I'm seeing in that way. If I hear anything, the clairaudience, clear hearing, is like a song playing out in my head, that internal hearing that can drive you nuts, okay? I put it all together, I've just felt this, I've just seen that, and I then just describe what I'm getting, and we see if it makes sense. And as I said, there are times when I can't seem to establish a clear connection, just like Wi-Fi, I'm on 1 bar. Other times I'm on 3 and it's bonk, 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 bonk. I kind of don't know where it's coming from, it's just coming, okay? And I feel and experience those loved ones like they are there with me. And the love and the emotions is so overwhelming, words just don't cut the mustard. So that's how it is for me. And the how I got there was through meditation, sitting in a group of people in the stillness, learning to still the mind, get rid of all the distraction of worldly thoughts, and just being open to explore visualization, meditation, and the possibility that they're there. And just ask. I set the intention, I'd like to experience this. And we can all, to varying degrees, experience that, okay? I believe it's like art. Some people, we can all pick up crayons and enjoy doing creative things. Some people seem to have a flair for it, others don't. I also explain in the book actually about the genetic science that's being done, because it turns out that my great-grandmother was known for being a medium. My nan, who I spoke about at the beginning, had her own experiences. I was having so I do believe that some of us are more predisposed, but does that help? Okay, Shalini, can we come down here quickly? Thank you.
Hello, I really enjoyed that. It was really interesting talk.
Oh, thank you.
Really, really touched a lot of points for me. When you were talking about meditation, you actually did speak about it to that lady's question. I just wondered whether the meditative kind of benefits, I know what they are, but I wonder whether you're in the meditative state when you actually are receiving the messages, or whether it's something you may have done a couple of hours before, and then after that you actually find that you're more heightened. Speaking personally, I was meditating for stress reasons because I had quite a lot going on. I had my mum's got dementia, and I was trying to take some of the stress away by meditating.
Good.
I actually found that I went into another zone a couple of hours later and have had all of those clairaudient, clairsentient. I've had all of that happen to me since I've been meditating.
Yep.
I'm really on board with this. I know it's your talk, but I'm just saying.
Oh no, I appreciate it. It's not my talk, it's our.
It resonates on so many levels with me, because since I've been meditating, I've unlocked the door to another world.
Brilliant.
Okay.
This is what my work is about.
Right.
Okay.
And I know
And
that's
you've
where
just
I
helped.
should be going.
Absolutely. And I just feel that you've just helped other people to understand I'm not alone here saying this.
Yeah.
We-
Everything you've said is just it's been on the money. Everything you've said is like I'm sitting here going, I've had more or less a parallel experience.
And I'm getting that from lots of people that read this book. They're all saying, oh my God, I never put two and two together. Okay? And just to quickly answer you, I normally meditate or get into a state. I can do it quite quickly now because I'm doing it every day. But I can get into that clear state. I normally spend about half an hour, 20 minutes before a client arrives trying to get clear of all the busy stuff of the world. I'm not always successful, but I try. I'm living in this world. I'm a mum, I've got kids, I've got all the pressures that we all have. And then I tend to find I'm prepared for the day, okay? But I do take steps to then ground myself, close down, switch off, and all of that as well. So congratulations. It's exciting, yeah. It is. You think all those people doing yoga out there, all meditating. And do you know what's interesting is there's a scientist called Dean Radin who has discovered that when people do yoga, they can quite often open themselves to mystical experiences and not, it's just a shock because where's that? What's that? How do I understand that? Okay, this is real. This is real. Any other questions?
This is slightly different. Do you think, you hear that we planned our life before we come here?
Oh yeah, everybody asks me that.
Do you think there is a set day and way that we do?
I question that. I don't have all the answers, so I'm going to put that caveat. I wish I did. All I can talk about is my own personal experience. So for 20 years of being told you've come to do this leads me, to speak, to teach, to write. Over and over, those messages repeated by strangers who didn't know me at all led me to believe, we have a life purpose. It's not always clear to us, but we generally seem to come into being for a reason, and therefore we seem to have some kind of pathway. What I started to question is there such thing as free will then? If this has all happened to me and here's the book deal and here I've got to write, have I actually got a choice? I don't like that. Then as I come to write, I'm looking at the pen thinking, make me pick it up. I have to decide to pick up the pen and coordinate and collaborate with spirit. No one is forcing me to do anything. Okay, so we may have a blueprint, we may have a time to come in and a time to go out. We may take matters into our hand and end that before it truly came to an end, because ultimately we are the captains of our ship and we have to take personal responsibility, I think, for that. But I generally think that if you're here, it's because life is guiding you here. Okay, because something in you wants this knowledge and is trying to expand your awareness and open up and learn more and recognise that there's something more than what we probably know already. Okay, thank you.